I'm Matthew Rasmus, or Lil Squid. I'm from Auckland, New Zealand. I race the Junior 85s, and I love racing because of the people and everyone that can help me out, like out on the track. And I love all the people that put the event on. They take a lot of hard work that people don't know about, and they just do it, and they put it together, and everyone has a great time.
The Coming Up Next Time podcast is made possible with help from our friends at Bow Valley DJ, Yeti Mechanical Systems, as well as Built to Ride. If you enjoy this podcast, one of the best ways you can help out is to share it with a friend. Share links to your favorite episodes on your socials. If you wish to contribute directly, head over to www.comingupnexttime.com and become a patron. All funds raised will go towards our giveaways, as well as they help out local clubs through our sponsorship program. Coming Up Next Time is a proud sponsor of the Rocky Mountain Dirt Riders Association. Since 2004, Rocky Mountain Dirt Riders Association has been working to take care of our local Alberta trail systems. Whether you're an experienced rider or new to the sport, the RMDRA welcomes you. Hello everybody and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Barry Moore. My next guest comes from Ottawa, Ontario and now calls Alberta home. Working as a firefighter, she's made a career twisting the throttle, from the corduroy enduro all the way to X Games, as well as everything in between. She spent countless hours volunteering on the board of directors at AMSA, and on race day you could find her anywhere she was needed. She's paid her dues time and again, and now she looks forward to a new chapter in her race career. Coming up next, this is Melissa Harten. Yeah, it's already recording, so that's all. And you want to introduce yourself? I can't even hear you. Hold on a second. There you go. Say again.
My name is Melissa Harten.
Oh, there you go. You can hear yourself?
No.
No? How's that?
Oh, that's better.
More or less.
That's okay.
Right there? Okay. Yeah. So then, now you can hear yourself, so you hear what people hear. That's about it. All right, we'll start over.
I think that makes it worse.
I can make it so you don't hear yourself.
Yeah, that might be better.
Yeah, okay. Like, as long as you can hear me, then that's all that matters. Okay. Yeah. So you're Melissa Harten. You're an Alberta rider. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Ottawa, Ontario.
Nice.
That's where I grew up.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And when did you move out west?
2005, I came out here.
Yeah.
My mother had passed away from breast cancer, and my older sister had already moved out here. So I came for a visit and fell in love with the mountains.
Oh, nice.
I never looked back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. And you're an enduro rider. You're multidiscipline, right? Like you've done enduro cross, you've done like.
I always think when people say multidiscipline, like I always think trials, motocross, off-road.
Yeah.
Where I just picture myself as off-road.
Yeah.
Endurocross I consider off-road, just in a closed course.
Okay.
But I guess in that sense I would be. But primarily like my focus is off-road. Hare scrambles, cross countries, with a side of endurocross.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. And so hare scrambles, or what do you like more, a hare scramble or a cross country?
I prefer cross country.
Yeah.
I'm like the opposite of people who enjoy like doing laps and seeing if they can get better. Or by like the third lap, I kind of get stagnant in my mind.
Yeah.
Where cross country is, because the whole time it's new, I like the idea of just keep pushing and having to like just face the unknown as it comes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I like cross country because to me it's like, I say it all the time, it's just like a guided course, right? Somebody was kind enough to lay out the flags and you just take it. But we race on different levels.
No, that's exactly how I started. It was like this safe space to go try different terrain and know that like I was always going to come back at the end of the day safe.
Yeah.
And not having to worry about knowing where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing I like. You're always going to get back to home base. Like, whereas when Paula and I go on our own adventures, she'll say, don't follow me because we'll end up climbing a mountain, right? Like, and it'll be our only option that's left. Like, sorry, this is where we are. So, but yeah, and you've had a pretty interesting career. Like when you started, I guess locally now, I guess we now have a women's pro class, and that wasn't always the case, right?
When I started racing was 2008, and what would be considered now either like ladies beginner, ladies junior, but before it was just called ladies A or B.
Okay.
B being on the Sunday and A being on the Saturday, which would be now considered ladies intermediate. And so we definitely have a lot more options now.
Yeah. And have you, since you've started, you see the, like, more and more lady riders coming?
Yeah. In the last pre-COVID, I would say it was really picking up.
Yeah.
And then obviously everyone was stuck at home and more people got into the sport. And I'd say it's tripled. Like our numbers in the different classes have the quickest growing class in the association compared to any other class.
Oh, wow.
Our women's beginner and junior have filled up. We have actually had a lot of our juniors move up to intermediate. So that class is full. And obviously expert is the slowest to build, but it makes sense. Like it's the top.
Yeah. Top tier
step.
Yeah.
And so it takes time. Like that progression isn't just going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
So it's growing. It's getting there. Like every year women are coming into the sport, picking whatever stage they want to be at, and then they're growing the next year.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then how about support, like sponsorship and things like that? Has it been tripling or is it lagging?
No, it's terrible.
Oh.
Sponsorship's a tricky one. Sponsorship for racing or sponsorship for riding is two different things. It's such a wormhole.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing with sponsorship now where sponsorship is so highly tied to Instagram and a social presence. And then sponsorship for racing is more like help with product, discounts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like every step of the way it had to fight for even just payback. Like always having to ask and prove why you're worthy of having it, which is kind of exhausting, but we're getting there. And I feel like the progression, once you ask for something and you gain it, it's really hard to take it away. So then you build upon that. And the next year it gets a little bit easier and easier to ask for more and more.
Okay. And what would a typical ask be then? Like someone just starting out right now, who has no idea about sponsorship or whatever, but they know they want to do this more and more, and they recognize that there's an advantage to sponsorship. What's a nice starting ask?
Go to your local dealership and ask them for help. They're most likely going to give you some sort of discount. And then in lieu of that, it's like show up at the events. And the big thing is going to be social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see socials being like the thing. It's like the whole game's changed and it's eyeballs on stuff now, right? Like,
yeah, it's hard. 'Cause like for me, Instagram and social media makes me uncomfortable. It's like a deep-seated thing. Like I don't even like public speaking. I never have. And that's exactly what social media asks me to do. It asks me to talk publicly about myself all the time and post pictures and put myself out there when all I have ever wanted to do is just ride dirt bikes and race and go be good. And now it's not enough just to do well and not even necessarily win, but just show up to events and support the events and ride. Now it's like I have to do that and I have to put myself out on social media for all these people to see me so I can promote those products. And I understand why they want that.
yeah.
But it's sort of like I have to do double the work. Now I have to train and ride and race and do well. And at the same time, do that one thing that I never wanted to do of like putting myself out there and being uncomfortable having people look at my life when all I want to do is race dirt bikes.
That's fair. Can you not, like I have a friend, he plays music in Nashville and his public self is like a character that he plays like a role in a movie. And then his private self is like just for all of us.
And that's what I'm working on. I'm working on figuring out like what I want to put out on social media because I've been told now that that's part of the deal. Like if I want help, I have to work on my social presence. Doesn't matter how many championships or how many number ones I have.
Okay.
What gets help these days is your followers. And I don't have a lot of followers. And so it's a little disheartening in the sense like I put a ton of energy and effort into advancing my skill set, propelling the sport and the class for women.
Yeah.
And then it all boils back down to social media. And that can get a little frustrating, but I've been told that I need to look at it in a different way. So I need to just think about what story do I want to tell on my social media?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my goal for this year is stop thinking about it as people looking at me. And I guess I just have to take it on as this is something I need to do to get help.
Yeah.
And what story do I want to tell, even though I don't want to tell a story?
Oh, there you go. But like in a weird way, I don't like the term followers. Like for the podcasters, like followers on Instagram and Facebook and whatever. And it just seems to me it's like the Jesus with the disciples sort of thing. Like that's so it's like supporters, right? Is how I think of them. And, you know, not even fans, because like fans are crazy people. Like, not to say that dirt bikers aren't crazy, but these people aren't like that, right? Like they check in on DMs and everything's sort of like friendly. So like supporters. So have you ever thought of it just like that? Like you're sharing information with people who are interested in you and caring about you. Like there's gonna be haters, I guess, but whatever.
Yeah, that's everywhere in life.
Yeah.
I think I just thought if I put the work in on the ground for my riding and let that speak for myself, and then on the backside, I thought if I do all the volunteering and I give back to the riding community and I show up to the events and like I put a ton of energy into the sport itself, that would mitigate me having to do a big social presence.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. It still comes back down to if I want to get sponsorship, I need to start working on my socials. So it kind of leaves the question of I only have so much time and something's got to give. So if I'm training, I'm riding, I'm racing, we're traveling, we're following all these different events, it's getting to the point now where like, then I don't have the time to volunteer.
Yeah.
So now I got to take a step back from that.
And that
put
hurts.
some time into my social.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for lots of people, it's interesting. Like if you're charismatic and this comes naturally to you, people have said to me like, well, what's the big deal? It's just social. It's easy. But for me, because public speaking makes me so uncomfortable, it's effort. I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what to say. What do people want to see about me? Like, I don't feel I'm that interesting.
Yeah, nobody does. Nobody feels they're interesting.
My thing is doing the racing.
Yeah.
My thing is doing the riding. Like,
yeah.
So on race day, that's my jam.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like that's where I want to live. I don't want to invest time onto the internet. So that's a work in progress for this year.
That's all right. It's hopefully, well then, with any luck, anybody who hears this will like help you. You know what I mean? Like
be my supporter.
Yeah, be the supporter, and like, and maybe folks can give you like asks, like, you know. Because you just said like you don't know what people want to hear or whatever, so maybe they can just do like mailbag shit, like, you know, hey Melissa, how do I load my bike or whatever, and so you can just do little things like that. And then how do I improve my time? Like, I don't know, where could I help out volunteering, that kind of shit.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah. Hold on. All right, sorry, I just had to stop that for a second. So we left off the major ask from sponsors now is that you have a social presence and you work on that. Not necessarily like you work on your own, but as a rider, they just have to keep working on their thing. And that's about it now. Right. Like, so, and that's pretty much across the board or just from sponsors that can really contribute.
Yeah. Sponsors basically need their brand put out to the masses. So if you're looking for help, especially for anybody starting in women's racing, go to your local dealership, ask them what their expectations are, kind of what events. Typically, if it's really casual, they'll just say, show up, have fun, do what you're doing, and just promo us on Instagram and tag us. And that's kind of how the ball starts rolling. And then if you're really into racing, just go to as many events as you can, and then it just kind of progresses from there. And usually people get addicted, and that's how it takes over. Yeah. And then you meet friends, and then it becomes not just racing, it's you're camping on the weekends, and it's a way to really see people. And I actually noticed that during COVID, I didn't really realize just how much our social circle was tied to racing.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the events shut down, I thought, oh, don't worry. You know, we have weekends that are free now. We'll see everybody. We'll make a point of going here to ride and there to camp, and it just didn't happen. So then after everything got back going, it was like, oh my goodness, I haven't seen this person and that person, and this is just an easy way on a Saturday to see everybody in one spot, which is racing.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that was a kind of a wake-up call.
That's fair. Like for us, for our family, racing was we went to try it one time, and then now we're still like going, right?
Involved.
Yeah. So it's like, and it isn't like, I don't always compete, like, and like I literally barely compete. When I do, I crash out a lot of time, but
you're not crashing, you're not getting better.
That's right. Yeah. But it's still a good time even still, right? Like you don't have to get a plaque to have fun. I know there's some people that can't have fun unless they get the plaque, but that's in everything. So whatever, right? Like, but it's more the people, the campfire stories, all that shit. Like, it's just like, it's, I don't know, unlike other things, right? Like, and then just the way everybody pumps each other up. like there's always someone who's sort of new, and everyone's sort of like culty in the way they're like, you're gonna like it.
Yep.
Drink the Kool-Aid. And then
You just gotta finish.
yeah, you'll be hooked. And then that's
feel
it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then what could you say to women riders? And it translates to anybody who's a new rider that have thought about racing, but just don't, like, they can't take the first step. I don't know. Like they're confused or intimidated, or I don't know what it is that slows people down, but.
I think everybody's been there. I can remember myself, my first race, being really nervous, especially being shy, not knowing anybody. But the second you go there, you're not alone. If you're a shy person, you don't have to talk to anybody. You can just show up and ride your bike, and it's a safe space to do that. And then if you are outgoing, you're going to meet people right away. And then the next one you go to, you'll see some of the same faces and you'll say hello. And then before you know it, like, you're in a community without even trying.
Yeah.
And so the first step is just going. There's going to be, like, everything's pretty easy these days to show up. Like, it's all, like, someone will be there to explain it to you if you're not sure. Someone can answer your questions. It's just literally making yourself take that first step, because every single person who's done racing has been in your boots.
Yeah.
And you just have to realize that, like, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll have fun. You just got to get to the end. And you'll know what we're talking about when you get that first feeling of accomplishment, when you're like, oh my God, I did that.
Yeah. It's
I did
pretty
that all by
stoked.
myself.
Yeah. That's right. Oh, Paula, like she was so stoked when at Yahatinda when she did it, like killed it, right?
Yeah.
And then just like cuts. I'm not trained for the second lap, but she was doing really well, and she didn't think she could do any of it, and we just pushed her out of the nest, so to
I
speak.
think that's what's so common about riding, world riding in general, and then racing, is that we all have that same story, that same feeling of, like, when we crossed the finish line and how it made us feel, and then we wanted to go back and do better.
Yeah.
And do better the next time, and then we just keep going back for more, and it gets a little easier, and then you know the routine, and then you make friends, and before you know it, like, that's how you just get so deep into it.
Yeah. Before you know it, you're into it.
Yeah, you're in deep.
Yeah.
Spending all your money.
That's fair. Yeah. And just so everybody knows, there's no money in this sport.
Nope.
Like none. So there's no free bikes. Like the fella I talked to, Jordan, who does the freestyle at MX, he's like, all I thought I had to do was land a backflip, and then the sponsorship money would come rolling in. And he's like, now they want like triple backflips.
Or front flips.
Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah.
Never ends.
No, it never ends. There's always the next thing. So yeah, which is, I mean, yeah, it's just kind of sad. Like you can make a surviving living, like a living wage, but I don't think you're going to get rich, especially in Canada.
No.
Like,
Look at our top female off-road rider in Canada, Shelby Turner.
yeah.
She's been doing it for years. As much help as she could get in Canada, but ultimately she's had to go to the US to try and make it a go of it professionally. Yeah. Like, to make a living here, to make a wage. Mm-mm.
No, I don't think so. I think you make enough money to cover the cost of actually the sport. That's it. Maybe.
If that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sucks. Yeah. It's so disheartening. Yeah. Maybe I'll put like earmuffs on for this one, kids. If you have dreams, shh.
No, that's not why you do it.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And it isn't. And I don't know anybody who's actually sour about it. Like everybody who's been doing it and doing it well, they all seem pretty stoked. Like no one has any regrets. Like you couldn't buy this life if you tried. So like just go have fun with it, I guess.
The places I've been through dirt biking, never could have imagined. Like the people, the places, yeah, obviously I've had to put a lot of my own money into it, but the experiences, you can't make that up.
No.
Like I never would have predicted this life for myself. If I had have asked myself on that ladies B race when I first lined up with my 1996 XR250, there's no way I would have thought this is where dirt biking would have taken me 10 years later.
Isn't it crazy? Like, so where's the coolest places taking you?
X Games, Austin, 6 days. I've been to France and Portugal. We've been all over America with Endurocross. And then from there you meet people and then you go to their houses and you go for rides in their areas. Yeah. We've been to Ontario, a bunch of different places. Whenever you have a reason to go to a race, it takes you to some random small town that you would never see otherwise.
Yeah.
And then you travel the countryside and you see all these different sites while you're driving. And it's just a really cool experience.
What's your favorite gem? Like the little thing you discovered along the way that you would not have found otherwise?
I can't remember which Endurocross we were driving to, somewhere through Idaho, in this place called Twin Falls.
Okay.
It's like flat forever and ever. You can see, I think they grow potatoes there. I'm not sure. But all of a sudden you come to like this huge crevice in the earth, and it's the biggest crack. And I can't remember how many miles deep, like 2 miles deep or something. And you'd never see it, and you'd never have any reason to go there. But it's unbelievable, and it's beautiful.
Nice.
There's all these little gems, and I have a lot of stories like that. I can't even recall all of them, but it's racing that's taken me to these little places that otherwise there'd be no reason to go there.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, Corbin, Alberta. Like, go to Thornhill Ranch.
Eggshaw.
Yeah. Eggshaw. Exactly. Like, fuck.
Driven past many a time, never pulled in.
Yeah. It's just a spot. Like, yeah. So you have some fans, even though you don't believe they're fans. Like, well, I'm going to throw Kristen under the bus here. Like,
She's not a fan. She's my best friend.
Yeah, but she's a fan too, right? Like, she sees you on a level that I know you can't see yourself. It'd be like being Batman hanging out with Robin, right? And he's like, "You're fucking Batman," and you're like, "No, I'm just Melissa Harten."
Yeah, she's my biggest supporter. I have to say that. She pumps me up.
Yeah.
She sees me from different eyes, because when she was just kind of getting into racing and starting in the women's class, I was at the top.
Yeah.
But for me, from my own eyes, that's not how I see myself. So I can see how she maybe like put me on a pedestal. But to me, I'm like, I'm not that much further ahead than where you are. Like, I was you. Like, everybody, I don't feel like it gets much more grassroots than myself, because like I didn't grow up dirt biking. I started when I was 24. Yeah. I got hooked. I had a bunch of other girls on a club night, Rocky Mountain Dirt Riders, suggest going to try a race, and I did. And then before you know it, I got hooked, and I just got better and better and pushed myself to go through the different classes, and, went from Sunday to then the B loop, then to the A loop. And so I literally think if I can do it, every single person who wants to can do it, because I've just proven you can.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what age you start at. You don't have to be doing it from being a kid. If the will is there and the drive to put the time in, because really that's all it is. It's seat time.
Yeah.
You can get there. And so when Kristen gives me like these little fangirl moments where she's like my biggest supporter, and she's like, you don't even know what you've done. And I'm like, I don't, because for me, it was just a progression. It was just natural, like the next step.
Yeah.
And so she kind of looks at me in a different way than I see myself.
Oh, I mean, I feel the whole world is in that way. Like, no one sees themselves. Like, no one sees their own accomplishments. That we just see like the next horizon line, and then other people can just see your whole journey, right? Like,
but that's why I say, like, if anybody wants to try it and think like, oh, I can't do it, or I can never be that good. Well, there's no reason you can't.
Yeah.
Because there's no like equation to how it has to happen.
That's fair.
It can happen at any point in your life. So if you just put the time in, you'll progress.
Yeah.
If you want it.
Barring like physical limitations. Like, yeah, that's fair. Too many accidents, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And that's the other thing. I think no one ever races perfect, like uninjured in the perfect place or time. Like, everyone who rides a lot is always injured.
Yeah.
And if you want to keep going, you just have to work through it. And that's your new normal.
That's fair.
So I think sometimes people think, oh, well, like, I'm hurt and you're not. I'm like, you just stop talking about your injuries at some point, because there's too many of them.
That's
and
fair.
you just have to you're going to do it or you're not. So
yeah, that seems legit.
Like, you're always, when are you riding when you're never achy or sore or something's tweaked or
the first fun ride of the season, and then by the end of that you've eliminated it. Yeah. That's right.
and
then it's all over. You're back to where you started, like at the end of last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, you touched on X Games, and when I spoke to Steven, he told me about X Games, but we did it off the record, so it was like
like a lifetime ago, really. I look at myself now and go back to then and wish I could go back as myself now.
Yeah.
Like, obviously progress in skill set, but the opportunity arose at that moment. And what had happened is Steve and I were following the Endurocross series just because, like, I was hooked. There is nothing that feels like the crowd of an Endurocross. When the lights go down and the show starts and you're a part of that, and then you go out and do your race, every like wrong move, embarrassing and great, you can hear in the crowd, and it's addicting. Like if you think racing off road and a hare scramble across country is addicting at the end, doing an enduro cross is a different level. Like I just can't describe that feeling. And so we started doing the series, and then it came out that if you did so many qualifiers and placed in a certain level, I can't remember now, it's been so long, you could potentially get an invitation to X Games for the women's and the men's class because they were filling spots. And I was like, oh my goodness, I want that.
Yeah.
And so we followed the series, and I did well enough to get my name in there. And it's amazing because back then, it was 2014, 2015, Endurocross, the women's class, you used to have to qualify. There used to be 2 full classes, like 2 full gates of at least 10 or 12 riders. And then from there, they'd narrow it down to 1 of 12.
Oh, wow.
12 gate drop. And it kind of sucks because now in 2023, like when you watch, it's not diminishing the skill set of the women who are still there.
Yeah.
But it's like 4 to 5 now. And so back then when I started, you had to work so hard just to even get qualified. So that made it even sweeter.
Okay,
the
yeah.
invitation. And then it's just kind of unfortunate that as time has progressed and it's expensive and it's really far to travel. And so there's all these different elements as to why maybe it's not as accessible for a lot of women to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the numbers have decreased. So now it kind of went from 20 people trying out for a main to now there's just 5 of you just doing it. You're going through the night show regardless.
Oh, okay.
And that doesn't, like I said, it's not taking away from the skill set of the women who were there. It's just when I went to X Games, you had to work so hard for it.
Yeah.
And it was such a big deal. And now it's kind of just dropped off. But again, like I'd love to go back and do it. It's all about time constraints and money.
Yeah.
But definitely having that experience and getting that invite and going to X Games, I was Kristen. I was fangirling out on everybody around me.
Yeah.
It's all the action sports
Like
heroes,
all of them. Yeah.
all of them.
Everything. I know.
And they were driving us around golf carts, and we had like an athlete's lounge, and they were giving us free stuff. And I was like, Steve, they think we're somebody. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'm nobody, but I'm here.
Yeah, but not like.
And locally, it was pretty neat because Shelby Turner, Lexi Pachout, like they were young. They're so much younger than I am, but they had all qualified as well, and they were young. And then Wyatt Hart was there, all locals, so we got to go down and do it together.
Oh,
so
that's
it was like
sweet.
another element of like, hey, we're all from Canada together, and we're doing this, and this is kind of like a once in a lifetime chance. I mean, potentially, you don't know if it's going to happen again the next year.
Yeah, no, everything feels like once in a lifetime.
Yeah,
Like,
and you're surrounded by all these amazing athletes doing really neat stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, I was like, I'm just riding my dirt bike trying to make it over this log. Meanwhile, people are doing backflips and huge jumps and skateboard tricks and stuff. But yeah, that was a really neat experience. And then the following year, they did it again. So we set our minds to wanting to qualify again, went. And then after that, it got taken out of X Games. So it was kind of one of those things where it's like, good thing I chased that while it was an opportunity.
yeah,
Because who even knows if it'll ever come back, right?
that's fair.
Yeah. But like looking back now, in hindsight, I'm like, damn it. Like falling over that baby log. I'm like, I could do that now. And with my eyes closed, I wish I could go back and just be better.
That's fair. Like, but so like, you were there and the athletes lounge and all that stuff. So you get to mix it up with, well, you said you were fangirling all over the place. So who was the most interesting encounter?
Like always looked up to Tara Geiger.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, cause she does all sorts of stuff and Nitro Circus. And then all those people were in there. Like, I think we even saw Travis Pastrana. Like I'm too shy to go up and talk to people randomly. So I'm in the corner lurking, just watching.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I know you and I know you. And even if I don't know your name, I've seen you on TV. I know you're a big deal.
Yeah.
So pretty neat.
Yeah. That must've been fun.
Yeah. And then like that was all the people maybe that I didn't know like through dirt biking. And then you had like Taddy Blazuziak
Yeah.
and those kind of guys in specifically what we were doing. And then there was Casey Martinez. And at one year, I think, can't remember Jessica Patterson if she went to X Games, but she definitely did do some of the rounds at Endurocross. Like just all these other female athletes that kind of getting into the sport, you see them in the magazines and then you're like, whoa, I'm in the same room as them.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what to say to you, but I'm a fan. So that part's pretty cool.
Yeah. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess it's unfortunate you're an introvert instead of an extrovert. Cause like,
I know.
you could have made some crazy, contacts, I guess. I don't know. Like, yeah.
No, I'm the opposite. I kind of go into a shell, and people might take it as maybe being a bitch, but it's actually the opposite. I'm more just completely shy, and I'm a watcher. I take everything in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know it's a really big deal for you to just do this thing. So like, I appreciate it. Yeah. Like, and I know one listener who's going to fangirl all over the release date. So, and I'm stoked to have her back on too. So whatever. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of Kristen and going to Portugal, how was that?
For me?
Yeah.
Portugal for me was redemption. I had gone to 6 days in France in 2017, and my story is kind of similar to Kristen. It was on my radar, but I never thought it was good enough.
Yeah.
And there's one thing between, winning Alberta off-road races and then being asked to go to 6 days. And so I always had it on like a pedestal of like, I'll never be good enough to do this. But it's kind of like everything with dirt biking. There's no perfect time.
No.
If you think you're going to be ready for something, you'll wait forever because you're never as good as you think you should be for that moment. So they called me up because Felicia Robichaud, who's from Quebec, or Ontario, sorry, she had injured herself and she was the third on the team and they needed a fill-in. My name came up, and 6 days is one of those things where you have to be good enough, but you also have to have the money.
Yeah.
So I hemmed and hawed, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I should go. Like, this is a lot of money and I'm not really good enough. But then I was like, screw it. What if I'm never good enough? And what if this opportunity never comes? Like, what if there's women who are always better than me? And because like it's a national team, it's a big deal. It's the Olympics of off-road. And so I jumped. I was like, I'm doing it. I just committed, full commit. So at that one, I only had 3 months to train because it was last minute because of the injury.
Yeah.
And so I hit the motocross track, I did a bunch of training, tried to learn as much as I could, do my maintenance, tire changes, all that kind of stuff. And then get to France. And on day 2, I got hit by a van coming into one of the checks to fill up. I've never ridden on the road, never ridden street bikes ever. It makes me uncomfortable, kind of like public speaking. And so it's overwhelming. Like there's so much going on, learning how a timed enduro works, riding on the road with other vehicles. And I was coming in and I was on the left-hand side and I was in his blind spot. He was turning into the parking lot and he pretty much like sideswiped me.
Yeah.
Knocked me off. I was concussed. My bike had some damage. Ran in, like I was crying. I didn't know what had happened. Went into the check, got gas. They kind of like patched me up. And then from the rest of that, like the rest of the 6 days, it was just survival. I was so sore. Yeah. Everything in my body hurt. Like it wasn't a good experience at all. And I got to the end of 6 days and it was kind of like getting to the end of cross country. Like you're proud, but upset. Like I could have done better. I know I'm better than this.
Yeah.
And so right away I got home, and after kind of about a month to recover and lick my wounds, I was like, you know what? I want to do this again and I want to do well. I don't want to just survive. I actually want to like go and compete.
Yeah.
And so I had already put my name in for Chile, which was the following year. But then Chile, I guess, was a bit more logistically complicated with shipping and this kind of stuff. And so the team decided they weren't going to go. And then 2019 happened and they were like, yep, we're going to have a team. We're going to go to Portugal. But then with everything, you still have to apply. You still have to like see if they'll pick you.
Yeah.
So I got through that process. And then, yeah, Portugal was much better. Going into it, having the experience of doing it once already, that way I wasn't really worried about timing. How do the pits work? How did the end of the day check work? Like I already kind of knew that. I could actually focus on just putting time into the track to get speed up.
Okay.
Because that was the other thing. Everything I loved about off-road racing here was mountain riding, single track, like rocky, hard uphills, downhills. And everything I knew about 6 days was kind of the opposite. It was like fast grass track, like long moto-y sections that were, they're off-road, but it was like a farmer's field with a bunch of like taped out tests.
Yeah.
And so completely opposite of what I wanted to be doing. So in that regard, I was like, I had to stop riding the stuff I really like to go to the motocross track to train, to get better for tests.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And so my goal was to do Portugal and get a silver. I knew I probably wouldn't be on gold time because you have to be within a certain percentage of the world's fastest, which is like Brandy Richards.
Yeah.
And she's badass. So my goal was just a silver because you have to be within 25% of the top girl. And I was able to do that. And yeah, I was really proud of myself. It's just another, like a bucket list item that you accomplish. So
that's sweet. Silver at 6 days is nothing to sneeze at, right? Like,
I think it's like riding dirt bikes, you always have this mindset of you just always want to be better. Like nothing's like you're satisfied for a moment and then you're like, I can do better. So even after the silver, I was like, well, maybe I could go back and do gold. Nice. And then I'm like, whoa. For the amount it costs to go to a 6 days, I could go down and do a whole hard enduro series in America.
Yeah.
So you gotta, at this point in my life, I gotta pick and choose what are my priorities.
So what are your priorities then?
Priorities are like hard riding.
Yeah.
Like as much as 6 days is an amazing experience, and I think it would be unreal if everyone could have that.
Yeah.
Going to the Olympics, just the atmosphere, the vibe, seeing all the different countries, the world's best riders, being a part of that it's something you can't explain, but it's not my true passion of the type of riding. Like if anything, the transfer trails, some of them were harder and more like the single track we have.
Okay.
But those don't count. And there was on a couple of occasions where it got really hard and rainy and everyone was like 15 minutes late. And I hauled ass to stay on my minute and I did. And I was like, oh my God, I stayed on my minute and like passed all these girls on the trail and they were struggling on the wet rocks and the uphill and blah, 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 blah. And then at the end of the day, the organizers gave everyone 15 minutes back because it was hard. And I was so distraught because I was like, that's the point.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the one place I shine is when it gets hard. I'm not fast. Wasn't bored on a motocross track. Like if I don't have trees, I actually get, it's like weird. It's like, if you give me a single track with trees on either side, I'll blast through. But if then you open it up to a motocross track, I'm like, where do I go? Okay. So it's super strange, but that's why I think I probably won't ever go back to 6 days.
Okay.
Because I've kind of like been there, done that. It was an accomplishment, but now I want to focus on the type of riding I love, which is single track, mountain, hard stuff. Like the gnarlier, the better.
The gnarlier, the better.
Yeah.
That's insane.
No.
Like, I've been asking people this question. Money's no object and all that, right? Which race in the world would you like to do?
It's hard.
It is hard. Yeah.
I think I would do Sea to Sky.
Yeah.
I have an affinity for Turkey. I went there when I was younger and it blew my mind how beautiful it was.
Yeah.
And so actually the only thing that would throw me off would be the beach race. But if we could just do the woods and the third day up to the top of the mountain, that'd be good.
Yeah, but it's sea to sky.
Yeah, I know.
You got to do the sea part.
I know, but that gap jump sometimes that they have.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, that's a first for that. Most people just say Erzberg or like Romaniacs or something like that.
Erzberg, I don't want to hit that road.
No doubt.
I don't want to do that road speed test.
Yeah.
Everyone talks highly of Romaniacs.
Yeah, Tristan said that that's the best bang for your buck if you're going to go over.
Yeah.
Like, because Erzberg, you can just wash out on day one.
Honestly, I think those might be a little bit unrealistic right now. But the closest we have is the Hard Enduro series in America right now.
Yeah.
And that's not out of reach. So that's my goal. We went to Sticks and Stones a couple of years ago and I love that one. So that's on the list to do again.
Yeah.
I'd love to do Tough Like Roar, which is on the East Coast. There's a couple in America that are doable where I don't necessarily put those ones on my list because they're in Europe.
Yeah. No.
Where these ones in America, you could just get in your van and drive down.
Yeah.
So it seems feasible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like the American Hard Enduro, so it's like TKO and all that stuff.
Yeah, the AMA Extreme stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
They have 6 in their series, don't they?
I think they have more now this year.
Oh.
I have a schedule on my calendar already.
Oh, yeah. Into America.
Well, I like writing things down on my paper calendar. Something tactile about if I put it down there with pen, I remember it.
Yeah.
And then this is kind of like my ritual every January as the different schedules come out, AMSA, PN, Ontario. I write them all down. I see how they kind of work with my shift work. Like what can I trade away? What can I trade away? And then that's kind of how I decide for the year what I want to do.
Yeah. That's a pretty good ritual. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, I have something kind of like that, but all my dates get filled in with DJ events, and then I look for the little weekends that are free, and then I scroll through them all to try to find like a race event that I can attend, and then by now, like, so I've blocked off outliers. Like, I don't know that I'll be I don't know if I'll ride it. I might ride it for fun, but but yeah, that's the only one I can go to, and then everything else until like schedules start coming out. Like, I don't think the AMSA one's out yet, and so yeah, like whatever. I have like one weekend in July, and just
that's the thing with doing something that everybody wants you on a weekend.
I know,
like being
it's
a
fucked.
DJ.
Yeah, I know.
You kind of pigeonholed yourself into.
Yeah, I tried to find a way, like find a friend who could cover dates, but he's also booked. So like we were trading things around before, like so we could always manage to do our stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's just none of that anymore. And then there's no talent. Like, it's funny. Like, yeah. So nobody trustable to like sub in, right?
Yeah.
Like
customer service.
Yeah.
Evenings and weekends.
All the time. Yeah. From when you wake up until when they go to bed.
Yeah.
It sucks. But whatever. I mean, it's life I chose. I think. I don't know for sure if I chose it. I think it's just something that sort of happened. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just what I do. So yeah, it is pretty crazy. You're going to go do the enduro cross. Are you going to try to chase Shelby?
Oh, for endurocross?
Yeah.
Oh God, I'd love to.
Yeah.
I feel like I've lost a lot of progression in the last couple of years with being off.
Yeah.
But I think once I get down and into it, so right now as it stands, there's all these different series I want to do. So we've got the AMSA, the PN, then the Vancouver Island Hare Scramble series.
Yep.
Last year they did their little 3-round extreme enduro. That's on my radar because it's local. Then the AMA Extreme series is on my radar. Endurocross, which hasn't put out their schedule, is on my radar. And then the Corduroy. And there's 2 extreme enduros in Ontario, Glenarden Extreme and Battle of the Prospectors. So all of those are on my list of kind of wanted to do. And like I said, I have to put them all on my calendar, see what I can work out. In the years past, when we were just focusing on endurocross, it was really easy because I knew like October, November, those were the months I used to run. But progressively over the last couple of years, depending on how they're working around the other pros, their schedules kind of creeped into August, September. And those months just don't work for me. Like, endurocross is perfect October, November. So hopefully that's kind of what they push the dates back to because there's nothing going on locally and it's easier to get away and get down there. As far as chasing Shelby, oh man, she's like 100%. This is her job now. And so to go and say, I'm going to chase Shelby. No, I'm going to go there. Actually, this has always been my motto. I've never made it my racing about anyone else. Like I found when at first, if people would compare you to other women or other men or whoever while you're racing, it like takes you to kind of like an unhealthy place where now you're focused on beating that person. Yeah. And I actually excel a lot faster if I just make the race about myself and seeing how well I can do the course. Like I'm trying to race against
You're racing your own race. Yeah, the clock. Yeah.
I'm like trying to push myself to see how quickly I can do that course or whatever. And the same thing like with endurocross, I learned over the years. And I think that kind of experience from endurocross of like keeping a cool mind and making good decisions is transferred up into my off-road racing here. It's like, don't make it about someone else. Make it about trying to beat the course, and hopefully the best you can do the course will be at the top.
Yeah, that's fair.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And then I find when you have that mindset, you actually make smarter decisions.
Yeah.
So if you have a wobble or if something isn't going right, it's not like a panicky thing like they're ahead of me.
Yeah,
they're ahead of me. Oh my God, they're ahead of me. Because when you start going down that rabbit hole, nothing good happens.
Yeah.
Like mistake after mistake and you get tired. So when you make it just about you, smooth as fast, like you get way further ahead.
That's fair. That's fair. Like, I know, like, whatever. In all the races I've done, there's been guys that, like, we raced each other for that race, but who gives a shit? That the whole thing was a fun exchange. Like, you know what I mean? Like, setting it, really, it's like chasing. We're just pace setting. One of us gets in front, the other one gets it back. Like,
I feel like I should clarify here, just like that there's no question about it. Shelby is hands down Canada's fastest off-road racer.
Yeah.
And like when we go to the Corduroy and stuff, or even if she happens to be able to pop into, Dirty Moose or something, she's like 15 or so minutes ahead. Like she's just above, right? And she's putting a ton of work down into GNCC. And if there's anybody who follows that stuff and the pace those women are running right now, It's unreal. It's great. Like, I don't know if you noticed the last couple of races, Caleb Russell and Zach Osborne were racing in like the Sportsman A or whatever they are, which just puts them behind the women. And like Taylor, Corey Steed, all those guys were kind of like keeping them behind them. So like, it just tells you what the pace is down there.
It's fast.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
So let there be no mistake. Shelby is much, much faster than me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put that illusion out there.
Oh, no, I didn't like, I wasn't trying to start beef with you guys.
No, I just like, no.
I feel you guys are friends, like are friendly. And so like, whatever. Right. Friends are also like the best competition, right? Like,
hey, when someone's setting the bar, it's something to chase. It's
that's
good
right.
to have goals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all. Like, sorry.
Yeah. No, you never know how people take things.
Yeah, or when they hit pause and then go on for the rest of the day and then they come back.
Believe me, I know where I'm at in this world.
Yeah. Well, I think most people do. Like, I don't know. Like, some people are surprised about their victories in a particular race, but nobody is like shocked when they're like second or third or fifth. Like, they knew where they were going to be at the end of the day anyway. Like,
yeah, you kind of have
like when you see the lineup, you're like, oh, with these guys,
you kind of know where you slot in. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, the goal is to beat that expectation, right? Like, you think you're going to be fifth, so coming in fourth is a real win.
Yeah. That's
right?
progress.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. Yeah. I always feel racing is literally a personal thing. It is all in your head. Like the little voice I used to speak about all the time, like that fucker is the enemy.
Sabotage.
Yeah. So whatever. Well, that's pretty cool. Like, does Kristen know that you're going after America?
Actually, she would love to jump in. That's the thing about all those traveling races. If you can do it with a group of people, that's what makes it affordable.
Yeah.
Like, if you can take 5 or 6 people and throw all your bikes in and travel together and split the cost, that's what makes those things attainable.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, I mean, you only need 1 tank of gas to lug everybody around.
Yeah.
Like, and then
something that was maybe really expensive on your own, now divided by people who are like-minded and want to do the same things, it becomes pretty affordable.
People that you can tolerate.
Yeah. Get to know.
Yeah, really get to know.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Sorry about that. So we're back at it. So this is like the first time I ever sandbagged or got somebody, I guess, and it's the last time, I'm sure, because I feel it's gonna blow up in my face. But you posted this on the drive here. The truth is, this was the hardest number 1 plate yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about that?
Sure. I don't.
You want to read it off?
Sure.
But we'll pause 1 second. Nah, fuck it. You read it because in your own words, you can self-edit. I feel like there's one.
All right. Truth is, this was my hardest number 1 plate yet. I didn't enjoy a single moment of it, and that's so sad. After 7 years of volunteering for the AMSA Off-Road Series, I recognized it was time for me to leave. It had become a full-time job that rolled from one season to the next. I've weathered plenty of shit sandwiches, but without riding, I had no coping mechanism. So I became anxious, exhausted, an insomniac, resentful, triggered, short, and negative. I don't like that person. Riding is really what keeps me grounded, and I need to reclaim that for myself. I guess the takeaway is I don't quit. I push myself to learn many new skills. I recognize now when I'm struggling and it's not okay, and I still came away with a championship. I lost track.
That's just a picture. It's all good. So yeah, like how, like, I guess it was a really hard season.
So I've been volunteering with AMSA behind the scenes for the last 7 years, and people may or may not know, but if you've bought a license anytime since the year 2015, you've been actually dealing with me. So I processed everything all winter, and I kind of started off, 2013 was my first year racing. So I raced, like I said, ladies classes, and I progressed, and then I got to the B loop, and I was really passionate about it. And I'd gone to the awards banquet for my awards, and at that time they had put out like, hey, we're struggling to find people. Renee Turner is retiring. She's been doing this for many years, which I had seen with her and the other moms, and we need people to help. So I was like, okay, like, I'm a firefighter. I have a lot of free time. Like, we don't have kids. I should give back. This is my passion. This is what I see myself doing for a while. Like, I should help. So that's kind of how it started. And I started off with doing secretary, treasurer, and licensing. And so it's just progressed. So when I first started, we had 50 people buying a license at the beginning of the year. Then it went to 100 100. And then the next year was 200 and then 300 and 400. And it was unreal. Like all these people who had never committed before to the series were now committing to buying a license. And there was something very satisfactory in that. And I'm helping to make this happen, but it was really labor intensive. So I essentially was tracking everything on a spreadsheet. Anytime someone would have an email, it'd be me answering. I was doing all the banking because like I had never volunteered for an association before. So I was just like, sure, I'll help out. Like I have no idea what I'm doing, but like I'll help as much as I can. So like every step of the way I had to learn. And so it's interesting how the more something grows, the more people are thankful, but then the more they demand. Yeah. And so as progression happens, it's like then people are expecting a certain level of like professionalism. And meanwhile, it's me in my basement, just like tapping away on a spreadsheet. Like, what number do you want? 5 emails later, it's like, oh no, that number is taken. I told you. And so I'm just like, and it just has progressed since there. And so the association has grown as well. And so we went from basically a board of directors of 3 people to 8, which is exactly what you're supposed to have. So it's been awesome. But then the guys I started with in the beginning, Jason Huff and Keith Routley, like they wanted to make an exit as well. Like they've been doing it for a long time. So they have resigned since, and I kind of took on more. I was thinking, okay, well, if I take on the role of president this year, it's perfect. I can make an exit strategy for myself. Yeah. I'm the only one on the board of the directors that's left, that's been from the beginning and knows the banking, knows the, like where all the documents are stored, knows how like everything functions as a whole. And if I can just teach the other people how this all functions, like I can take a step back and just walk away, and it's awesome. Yeah, in theory, that's how it was going to go. It did not go that way. So we had always paid Enduro Promotions to do our scoring. And in COVID, he took a step away and said he wasn't going to score anymore. And so then AMSA was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And so our previous president, Jason Huff, researched a bunch of scoring systems. And so we purchased that. And then it was like, call out to the association, like, hey, who wants to learn how to score? And no one would do it. And me, I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I was just thinking I've worked on the board too long to kind of let it fail. Yeah. And I have the time, and I can say that. Like I do have quite a few days off in a month. So I was like, fine, I'll do it. I'll figure it out. And then I'll find somebody I can train to do it so I can race. Cause I was like, I'm not giving up racing. No, yeah. Like, that would be besides the point. You take the most computer illiterate person and you ask them to use a scoring system, and not just a scoring system, like a new membership system. Now we're using Motorsport Reg. I basically took a million Zoom meetings learning how we configure our membership database with like pre-entries, online registration, basically trying to find a system that takes the least amount of volunteer hours. Cause I knew, like, I'm not trying to be, I don't know what the right word is, not pompous or anything here, but because I'm a firefighter and because I have 4 days off every week, I'm like, no one who has a regular family and a regular life with kids is going to be able to devote this much time into doing all this stuff manually. So if we're going to like be progressive in the future, I have to find a system that takes the least amount of volunteer hours. Yeah. So kind of like wrap the story down. I was just figuring out all these new systems by myself. And then Porky's rolls around. I like had looped my niece and nephew into being the scoring people. Never done scoring myself. There was all these issues. So it was like all week leading up to every event, I'd be on the computer uploading all the pre-entries into the database, figuring out database issues. Then in the morning, I'd be helping them scan people's helmets in and kind of like troubleshooting all the different things that was going wrong with the system. And then it'd be time to race. And then it'd be like, okay, here we go. Like my brain is fried. I've been up since 6 a.m. Barely had a time to have like a bite of my breakfast sandwich. And now I got to go race for 2 hours. Yeah. Get to the finish line. And they'd be like, the first race, I'm not even joking. They were like, the whole system didn't work. And I was like, what do you mean it didn't work? They're like, yeah, it didn't work. I'm like, oh my God. And then I had to sit down and do everything manually. Yeah. And for like the next week, every day off, I was in my office for 8 hours a day, just sorting through results and sorting through registrations. And then, you have your regular questions and things that a president of an association has to deal with regardless. Yeah. And it just was stacking up. And so this kind of proceeded throughout the season. Like every race was sorting out scoring issues And on top of it, like teaching someone how to be a treasurer, teaching someone how to be a secretary, having meetings. And it basically just took the life out of me.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it until the very end of the season. Like, I was like, why am I struggling so bad to deal with this stress? Like, I've had a lot of stressful things and, come out on top. Like, one year, like in 2019, when I was going to 6 days, like Steve had his accident right before I was about to leave. And like, I got through it. Like, I was able to handle it and I kind of figured it out. It was like doing all this volunteer work for racing took away my ability to ride. And that feeling that every single rider talks about, like that moment in time where you can leave all the stressors behind and just have that time in your life where you're just focusing on the ride.
Yeah.
While I was riding, I'd be thinking about, is the scoring system working?
Oh, shit.
Like what do I got to do when I get back to the finish line? And so it completely took that away from me. And so I didn't realize it, but just over the course of the summer, it like had built up. And between, stuff I see at work and just normal everyday stressors that every adult has to deal with, like my cup was overflowing and it was making me really negative. And like now if someone would email about a question, something so simple to them, it'd be like, I'd have no patience for it.
Yeah.
And then it'd be hard to, like, it was like the more I said I was overflowed, people would be like, well, you chose this. Or like, you just have to see it through now. And that was compounding onto it. And I was like, but people don't understand. We've grown the association from 50 people to 800. That's where we're sitting right now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so 1 minute for you to ask me a question, now you times that by like 800 people in a year. Like how many minutes of my time is that? It was just like, it's too much. So I kind of saw it through to the end of the season. I talked it over with Steve, and technically speaking, a president is supposed to be around for 2 years. But I mean, this was my 7th year, so I have been around, put my time in. And I just said, it's not healthy for me. I'm in a really bad place right now. I don't have my freedom of like dirt biking was my mental release. It's overflowing at work. It's overflowing at home. And I was like, that's it. Like, I got to walk away.
Yeah.
Before like I have a meltdown.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do any damage.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure this season I probably came across as crusty to some people, and maybe I didn't give a great first impression to maybe people who haven't been in the sport. But like I don't think they realize just how much they were asking of me. For my own sanity, I had to pull the plug.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, I don't know if anybody resents you for it. Fuck them. Like, honestly.
I mean, you don't know, but like, there's always questions of like something that might take you 2 more minutes of reading. They'd quickly ask you for the answer. And you're like, but you don't understand if you have like 50 people asking you for the answer instead of just looking into it yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, that's so many hours of my own time.
Yeah.
Just
in other industries, trying to get to tech support, they make you like basically answer all your questions before you get there. And if there is no question, then or if there's no answer to any questions you have, finally you get to talk to somebody, right?
They finally give you the number.
They're like, fuck it. Okay, we don't know the answer, so we got to find the answer. And then I guarantee you within like 5 hours after you hang up, the question and answer is on that list of shit so that they don't have to do it again, right? I said earlier to you, I feel bad kind of telling these stories. Yeah. Because I don't want to deter other people from helping, but I think that's the problem right now is there's not enough hands helping. Yeah. Like if there was several people who would step up and just take a little piece of that pie, it would make it more manageable. But it's kind of a trend that's happening in all the clubs. All of them. From when I started racing, that was the biggest ask, right? Like I would volunteer a little bit here and there on the side and then like commit to nothing. And then if I show up, I'll help, right? Yeah. And then sometimes you get shit on by people while you're doing the volunteering. It's like, kind of fuck you. Like, because like you're not doing it. So don't tell me if I'm doing it wrong because you're not doing it. And that's where I was getting to a place where like I'd read comments online or I'd hear, like campfire talk about AMS is not doing this or AMS is not doing that. And it'd be really hard not to take it personal when it's just AMSA. A bunch of riders. Yeah. Like we literally, if you look at most clubs, associations, they're just people who are passionate about riding and racing and are volunteering their time to make something semi-professional in an organized fashion. And then when you're spending all your free time doing it,
to the point where this year I was like, I didn't have any time of my own to ride. And then you hear all the negative stuff. You're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Then it's very hard to be like, I think everyone else should do this. This is awesome. Like basically feed everybody a lie.
That's fair.
Like you too should volunteer. It's great.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. I won't say his name, but one person in the organizations, not AMSA specifically. I asked him a few times, like, because I thought I'd have more free time, whatever. Is it worth it? And he would say the words yes, and his head would go in a different direction. Like, and he was just basically telling me quietly, like, don't do it. Like, but I mean, like, also do it. But he's like, he knew my schedule and everything else. So he's just like, it's just you have no free time. So if you take this and you have no free time.
It's somewhat interesting when you stop and you get to like step back and look at it in a big picture. Sometimes because you get so deep and so close into it, and it's so all encompassing. Your life kind of starts around. You're like, wow, this is just for dirt biking, and I'm getting so emotionally involved in this. And it's sometimes like I understand why, and then you're like, well, damn it, it's still just dirt biking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's just like it's like party planning, right? People put a ton of energy into a party. The guests arrive, the guests leave, and nobody stops and says, hey, that was a well-planned party. They just fucking leave.
I think that's with everything. It's whatever you're emotionally invested in is what becomes all-encompassing. And it's not until you're able to take a breath and step away that you realize it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
No. Then the racing will keep happening.
Yeah.
Right? Like all those people didn't get there because they don't like racing.
Yeah.
So if the organization gets a little bit, whatever, sloppy or whatever for a couple of years, people are still going to show up and twist the throttle.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they just...
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Maybe they're just like, not
someone
as cool
else
as
will
banquet.
figure it out. I'll be twisting the throttle.
Yes. Like, and so what? You did your time. 7 years is a long commitment, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah. I just think that in everything, right? The OGs move on, and then the new blood has to come in, or it fails, right?
And that's exactly what's happening right now. Is there's not any new blood, and so for instance, we kind of put out to the membership, hey, we need people to learn scoring, and it's actually gone to a job posting for strangers now.
Oh wow!
Yeah, which might not be a bad thing, but it just kind of shows the trend of everything. Every club I've ever talked to right now is in the same boat. And it would actually be nice to give a little bit time back to an actual club. Like I'm a member of Rocky Mountain Dirt Riders, and I haven't been able to really donate any of that kind of stuff for land advocacy and trail maintenance, like stuff I'm also passionate about because the racing portion of it has taken up so much of my time. Yeah. So I think it'll be good to kind of step away, still race, but on my actual days off, do something maybe else.
Constructive in a different way.
In a different way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's cool. Land advocacy is a big deal. Like we don't have enough of that. Like our government wants to like
always take it away.
Yeah, always. And then, you know.
The one good thing about putting races on is you're just there knittering at them. Like all the paperwork, it's terrible and it sucks to have to do it, but it's like we're not going away. We're here to stay. Like these trails, whether we ride them or race them.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode. I want to thank my guests for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. A special thank you to you, my supporters. Without you, this would not be possible. If you enjoyed the show, give it a 5-star rating. And if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. If this is your first time listening, I encourage you to take the 3-episode challenge. Once again, thank you for your continued support, and stay tuned to find out what's coming up next time.